What I tell you last, I guess that was yesterday morning now. I'm going to say last night. It's like, no, I don't do a nighttime show. I love you guys, but 4 hours in the morning is plenty of time for us. I said Trump had to win this thing by double digits to feel like he basically solidified the nomination. And that's exactly what he did in New Hampshire in the primary. Good morning. It's so good to be here on a Wednesday. Trump gets 55% of the vote. Nikki Haley gets 43% of the vote. 54.5 if you want to be exact, if you're a diehard Nikki supporter, to Nikki Haley's 43.2. So effectively an 11-point win and change for Donald Trump last night. So you'd think that the Trumpster, as I would be if I was him, would be living the good life, would be fired up, would be excited, would be in a good mood, would be in a unifying mood as he was in Iowa last Monday night after he dominated those caucuses with another 50+% win. But he wasn't. Donald Trump was a completely different guy last night in New Hampshire than he was in Iowa just 8 days ago. And I don't know why. I mean, I think Trump should be just as happy about this outcome. New Hampshire's a more moderate state. If you are an independent, you can vote in either primary. You just pick Republican or Democrat. And because Democrats didn't really have a primary, many Democrats, if they wanted to have their voice heard, would have probably gone in and voted with the Republican primary yesterday if they were independents who leaned Democrat. And Donald Trump still won by double digits. I said, if Nikki Haley wants to feel good about this night, she's got to keep it to within 5. She lost by 11. It was not close. Donald Trump's going to be the nominee. But in typical Trump fashion, he just can't help himself. He just can't. I mean, the guy has dominated the first 2 states. He's going to be the nominee. All his energy should be on Grandpa. And instead, he's doing this speech last night after New Hampshire, and he's totally railing on Nikki Haley. I mean, he is just crushing Nikki Haley. And don't get me wrong, there were some reasons to crush her because she gave a speech early in the night, almost as if she had won New Hampshire, which of course she did not. But man, Trump was not holding back. And by the way, it was completely unnecessary. Take a listen. He was just in full Donald Trump petty mode last night, like when he dropped this about Nikki Haley's dress.
I find in life you can't let people get away with bullshit, okay? You can't. You just can't do that. And when I watched her in the fancy dress that probably wasn't so fancy come up, I said, what's she doing? We won. And she did the same thing last week, but he was much more angry about it than I was. I said, get up there and you let him know. We are going to win this. We have no choice. If we don't win, I think our country is finished. I do. I believe our country is finished.
Now, that's a strong case that Trump made there at the very end. If we don't win, our country may be finished. Okay. So let's move our mindset into general campaign mode if you're Donald Trump. Don't even think about Nikki Haley. What I kept looking at last night and saying to myself is, here's Trump, I mean, the guy that should be riding high, feeling great about his prospects, feeling like, you know what, we got this thing in the bag, and he more or less does. And instead, he's worried about someone and something, frankly, as inconsequential as Nikki Haley. And instead of taking the high road and saying, just like he did in Iowa last week, when he took the high road and he said, hey, let's all come together as a country, he did a complete 180 from that. Here was Trump after he won in Iowa.
Crowd, and I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world and straighten out the problem.
That was outstanding. I love that from the Trumpster. Right? He's basically, when he wins by 30 points, he gets up there and he goes, yeah, I'm the man. It's time to come together, and it's time to, beat Joe Biden come November. And then last night was old school Trump. And listen, I get it. If you didn't see Nikki Haley's speech, it was awkward. There's no doubt about it. She got up there and she talked about how the race is far from over and she's just getting started. It's like, Nikki, it's over. It ain't happening for you.
This race is far from over. There are dozens of states left to go.
No, Nikki. Nikki, it's over. It's done. Your candidacy is done. There's nothing more for you to do. It ain't going to happen. She can get up there and say whatever she wants. And if you're Trump, I could see why you're annoyed by the whole thing, right? I could see why you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, what the heck? I've just cleaned up these first two primaries. And she's going around saying there's dozens of states left to go. And, it's just getting started. It's like, no, it got started and it's basically done.
Yeah, he wanted everybody to come together and rally around him, and she's not. So he's feeling a little annoyed by that.
Well, and I get that, right? Because now they have to waste some resources and some monies in some of these other states. So I get why he's annoyed. But remember, if you're Trump, what's your end game here? It's not about the war, or it's not about the battle with Nikki Haley. It's about the war, the political war, of course, with Joe Biden. All right, so Nikki Haley's going to hang around. And frankly, I'm not convinced she's going to hang around, but she claims she's going to hang around. Heck, Ron DeSantis said last week he was going to hang around. And he was gone within, 72 hours. So I get the frustration. But at the same time, when you've dominated the way this guy has dominated, I'm not even giving Nikki Haley the time of day. I'm not even mentioning her name in my speech, in my victory speech. Because when you look at last night, New Hampshire, unaffiliated voters, Nikki Haley got 62% of them, Trump got 36%. And he still won by 11 points. There's no way when you go to some of these other states, like South Carolina, that Donald Trump is not going to win and be the nominee. Donald Trump won 83% of so-called very conservative voters. He's got this thing in the bag. I don't care how much money Nikki Haley has. I don't care what, she thinks she's going to do on the ground game in South Carolina, her former state. Trump's got the endorsement of Tim Scott, Lindsey Graham, the current governor in South Carolina. He's got them all lined up for him. So even if this is just an annoyance, is it worth putting Nikki on blast? Now, some of you will say, sure, it feels good. And I get it. It's funny. He dropped the BS word last night during the speech. He called Nikki Haley's dress cheap. But once again, does that help you win the war against Joe Biden? Not the battle against Nikki Haley. And Trump has had incredible political acumen since 2016. But when he's had some missteps along the way, it's because he's got caught in the tunnel vision of the short term instead of potentially seeing the long term. And last night should have been nothing but good vibes, positivity, and looking ahead to November. And instead, it just became unnecessary petty politics. Petty in the gutter, primary politics when there is no primary. It's done. He's got it. Don't bring her back into the equation. And that's arguably what happened last night. 913-408-7957. It is 6:13. As we kick it off on a Wednesday morning. I mean, even when we get decent temperatures around here, you're driving through fog. So take it easy on the roads. All right? It's dicey as you get the morning going. But certainly it beats, a tenth of an inch of ice on the streets. That's for damn sure. We'll get to you, everything around New Hampshire, and also the big guy, Joe Biden. He kicked off his 2024 reelect yesterday. And it went about as well as you would have expected. You could not literally understand what he was saying. It's all coming up in the 6 o'clock hour on KCMO. This should have been Trump last night, celebrating, doing the dancing on stage. That's right. Maybe break out a little YMCA for the big guy. It's fun to hear you go, YMCA. But he didn't want to do that. Instead, he was just pissed off at Nikki Haley all night. That's what it was.
I find in life you can't let people get away with bullshit. Okay? You can't. You just can't do that. And when I watched her in the fancy dress, that probably wasn't so fancy.
That was instead, it was like, it should have been one big celebration. Instead, what we got was just, that. 913-408-7957. Paul is in Kansas City. What's up, Paul?
Hey, Pete, I agree. I was watching it. I saw a reporter come out and said, or before he made a speech, he said, yeah, Trump's annoyed by the Haley speech. I'm like, oh, no. And then he got up there. I was like, don't do it. And then he started going off the rails. And I'm like, you tell people that Biden cannot perform on the world stage, yet you let a former UN ambassador get you off the rails like that. And then he put Tim Scott in a bad position. He said something about Tim Scott hates Haley. And Scott had to grab the mic real quick and say, no, that's I love you.
Yes. Let me play that for the audience here real quick, Paul.
Okay.
Just hang tight, buddy. Let me play this for the audience because this was another awkward moment that put Tim Scott in a tough spot here because Tim Scott was appointed to the U.S. Senate by Nikki Haley when she was governor. Here it is.
Two great senators, which is hard. I mean, did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it. Appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame.
I just love you.
No, that's why he's a great politician.
By the way, good job by Tim Scott. He's standing right behind Trump as Trump's basically saying he must hate Nikki Haley, which is just an unfair thing to say about Tim Scott. And then Tim Scott, like a pro, gets up there to the mic and says, no, I just love you. That was a good job by Tim Scott, Paul, but you could tell it just was totally avoidable and didn't need to happen.
Did not need to happen. President Biden is the first president since Jimmy Carter to make going to the grocery store a nightmare. All you got to do is talk about that. That's all you got to do. Just focus on that. EV cars and charging stations in Chicago are dead, just like President Biden's administration. Just do things like that. Tell the American people. But that thing yesterday, I'm like, oh, no, don't do it. And he did it. That just, of course, the CNN folks, they just jumped all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm with you, Pete. I don't know why he does that. You let Deion Sanders used to talk to Jerry Rice. He said, the reason I would do that is to get him off his game. Mm-hmm. That's what happened last night. So, yeah, I agree with you. So,
I mean, it's weird. Like Nikki threw Trump off his game.
She sure did.
And it got under his skin. Thanks, Paul. And it was totally avoidable. He didn't need to bother doing that. You just move on. You talk about yourself. What a butt kicking you gave your opponents, which was a double-digit win for Trump last night in the New Hampshire primary. And from there, you kind of move on. And then you start talking about, like Paul said, the grocery store. Because I'll tell you right now, I mean, you go on Main Street, and that's what people are thinking about today. That's what's got them all bent out of shape. I mean, yeah, Nikki's an annoyance, but in the end, that's what's hitting the pocketbooks. John's in Grain Valley's next up. What's up there, John? Good morning, buddy.
Morning, sir. Two points on that. Whenever Trump pulls a finger quote a Trump, that solidifies those Democrats and some wavering Republicans on this is why I can't vote for this guy. When he pulls these stunts, this is why they can't vote for him. They don't want his buffoonery. And like you said, you won. Let it go now. Be a good winner and get back to talking about the pocketbook, kitchen table, the economy, the control government wants on all your appliances. If he can stay to that message, he'll be strong, but he can't help himself. Mm-hmm. He's got like Tourette's. It's like Tourette's for him. He's got to pop off. And when he does that, that's when people that I know go, that's why I can't vote for the guy.
John, we've got some folks texting in here about what you and Paul just said. And one texter says it's voters like this that gave us Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the first place. How would you respond to that?
I would tell him that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were given to you by a electorate that was modified, shifted, It was also opinions were suppressed. There were studies that came out that said had people known about the Joe Biden laptop and everything there, I think it was up to 13% of the people said they probably would not have voted or not have voted for Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would have swung it probably over to Trump. We'll never know.
Yeah.
So I tell people, you get what you get. Elections have consequences at every single level. So when you look at Trump and his buffoonery, you got to go, okay, he is a buffoon. I'll give you that. He is the bull in the china shop. But he gets things done. That's how he was in business. That classic, you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't play around. He doesn't have the time for it. Where a swamp creature like Joe Biden, 50 years in the Senate and in government, and what was his big accomplishments?
Yeah. Listen, John, you're hitting the nail on the head.
Always, whenever he spoke, oh, that's just Joe. Because he got everything wrong.
Mm-hmm. John, you're hitting the nail on the head. And the reason I asked you and brought that up to John about some of the texters, it's to point out that John is not what some would consider soft or, righto or whatever you want to call him. That's not what John is. That's not what Paul is. That's not what I am. But, the minute I say or anyone says, hey, Trump just won by double digits. Bask in the glory, brother. Have a good time. I mean, the text line just explodes. And, of course, the calls, you can make them all the time at 913-408-7957. That's all you got to do. You take the high road, you live the good life, and you move on to the next thing. And maybe it's South Carolina, and maybe Nikki hangs around, but there is no data to suggest that it's going to be close. Nikki Haley couldn't win a moderate state or come close in a moderate state where independents can vote for her. Very conservative voters went 83-17 for Trump. It's unbelievable. So the thing is game, set, match, but clearly she threw him off his game last night, which I didn't see coming. So speaking of Joe, he kicked off his 2024 campaign yesterday in Virginia. And I want to play a clip for you from his event yesterday in Virginia. And I'm going to ask you an honest question as I play this clip. Can you interpret this for me? If your life depended on it, would you be able to interpret this from Joe Biden?
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
I mean, you want to talk about where Trump should be using his energy? It's on that guy who literally cannot speak. All right, one more time. I'm going to play it again before the break. And I'm just saying, gun to your head. Your life depends on it. Do you know what the hell the president of the United States just said?
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
I've listened to it 25 times. 913-408-7957. I need your help.
He's a cuckoo bird.
Here we go. Yesterday in Virginia.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
You know what? That's not AI.
No, that is not Biden-generated artificial intelligence.
It's like the old thing you used to do in radio. You would do the kind of mashup. You'd take little clips and have people try to guess the 6 songs that were all clipped together there real quick.
Well, I do know I don't want to start giving away what our friends down the hall are doing, but I do know that on the music stations, they have you like guess sounds and stuff like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
They're doing some contests like that. I won't say which one, but they're doing some contest where they're having the audience guess the sound, and it's like a paper ripping or, a coin dropping or something like that. And it takes them a few days to get a winner. Well, something tells me I could spend a week trying to have anyone in this audience guess what the hell Joe Biden was just saying.
Get your entries in by Memorial Day.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have a winner by July 4th. All right, one more time. I need your best guesses. We've got some good ones on the text line. I know Mark's trying to figure this out as well.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson.
All right, we'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. We've all got that part, right? Now we've got 5.9 seconds left of mumbo jumbo.
Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Don't mess with Aluminum America. Is that like Blue Horseshoe Loves Endicott Steel?
Yeah.
Is that a stock tip that he was coding in there? Don't mess with Aluminum America.
Maybe that's the name of Hunter's latest painting. All right, Mark, what do you think it is there, big guy? What do you got for me?
I think it's don't mess with the men and women of America unless you want to get the benefit. Which, I mean, the first part kind of makes sense, but the ending part, what the benefit, I don't know.
Well, the benefit's one of his old buddies, like Corn Pop, and it's like the situation. It's kind of one of the Jersey buddies of his.
Yeah, the Jersey
benefit
Shore.
will come by.
All right, the text line. Pete, imagine trying to be his sign language sidekick. Oh, gosh.
They just end up doing the tornado sign.
Yeah. Or I would just throw my hands up like, I don't know what the hell he just said.
Yeah.
Literally, and I don't know what that means in sign language, but whatever it means, if it means what I think it means, I'm just throwing my hands up and saying, sorry, I can't help you on that one.
The sign instructor just kind of stops and looks over at him, huh? What?
Oh, man. Pete, have Don from Blue Springs call in and tell us what Joe's saying. We haven't heard from Donnie in Blue Springs in a very long time. I don't know where he's at and what he's up to. So I can't help you with that. No clue. Donnie, are you out there? Where's Donnie boy? All right, here are some of the guesses on the text line. Pete, don't mess with the men and women of America unless you want to get the benefit. Is that what you said, Mark? That's what someone said on the text line.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I said,
Mark's interpretation as well.
All right. Don't mess with the men and women of America unless you want the benefits. But, Pete, that still makes no sense. Yeah, I don't know what he's saying. I have no idea. I can't figure it out. I've watched it and listened to it now a total of probably 26 times. It's up on my Twitter page, by the way, at Pete Mundo. If you want to see it, by the way. I've thought if maybe I could read his lips, I could figure it out because they zoom in on his face. They zoom in on that face that has obviously just been absolutely loaded. What is that stuff called when they put that stuff in his face to make it look nice and clean and straight and make it look nice and good? You know what I'm talking about. Not a facelift, but he's just got all this, junk that's been put into him so he looks halfway decent for 81 years
the
old.
Injections.
Yeah.
Starts with a B here.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Botox. There we go. Between three of us, we should be able to come to the answer on Botox.
Not any good on the $10,000 pyramid here.
No.
We would have run out of time on that one.
Yeah, we would have run out of time on that one. So, anyway, that was Joe yesterday, and then you had Trump blasting Nikki. So, all in all, it wasn't a great day, on the national political scene, but it is what it is right now as we move ahead. Now, on a much lighter note, and it's not actually a lighter note, but I did want to bring this up here as we roll through the hour. The AFC Championship game is coming up on Sunday. And I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are both black. Did you guys
talk about a bombshell?
Did you guys know that? Okay, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. So the media is starting to do its thing here over the last couple of days. Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson become the first black starting quarterbacks to face off an AFC Championship game. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. You may recall last year, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes met each other, and they were the first two black quarterbacks to meet in the Super Bowl. And the media made a big, stupid deal out of it because all they see is race and skin color. Now, we've had, by the way, two black quarterbacks meet in the NFC Championship game. That happened back in 2005 with Donovan McNabb from the Philadelphia Eagles and Michael Vick from the Atlanta Falcons. That was won by McNabb and Andy Reid. So now we sit here, and the media's spent the last 24 hours making a thing out of, we've got the first two black quarterbacks in the AFC Championship. Oh, my goodness. We're eventually going to get to the point where they're going to do this thing like next year. We've got the first two black quarterbacks playing each other on the third Sunday in September when there's a full moon and the wind's blowing at 26.5 miles an hour in a leap year. What do you guys have to say about that? That's what the media is going to do. Woo! Yeah, exactly. We are getting so stupid, and all these people see is color. I think back to something Todd Bowles said. And, I mean, this was from 2022, if you recall. Todd Bowles, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in 2022, he was asked about going up against Mike Tomlin. Now, Todd Bowles is a black man, been a very successful NFL head coach. He just got the Buccaneers with Baker freaking Mayfield of the divisional round. I mean, that's hard to do. And last year, when he went up against Mike Tomlin, he's got this woke white media establishment begging him to say something about being a black man. And Todd Bowles is basically like, how about you white goobers stop seeing color? Take a listen to this from October of 2022.
You and Mike Tomlin are two of the few black head coaches in the league. I wonder what your relationship is like with them and your thoughts on Steve Wilkes joining that fold.
It's like, before we go any further, yeah, you guys are black. I don't know if you knew that, but what do you think about you guys facing each other as two black men?
I have a very good relationship with Tomlin. We don't look at what color we are when we coach against each other. We just know each other. I have a lot of very good white friends that coach in this league as well, and I don't think it's a big deal as far as us coaching against each other. I think it's normal. Wilkes got an opportunity to do a good job. Hopefully he does it. And we coach ball. We don't look at color.
That is such a great answer from Todd Bowles. There's more to it here, but I want to stop his answer right there. It's a beautiful answer. He goes, hey, guys, believe it or not, Mike Tomlin and I know each other. We coach against each other as coaches, not against black men, not as black men. And I got white friends who are coaches too. How about that? Do you know that? I know all you guys want to see is me as a black man, but I just view myself as a football coach. And that's where the people who insist on always seeing race are actually the real racists. So here's more of this back and forth from Todd Bowles, October of 22. And I would love it if Mahomes or Lamar Jackson took a page out of Todd Bowles' book if they get asked about this week.
But you also understand that representation matters too, right? And
by the way, you also understand representation matters too, right? Says the woke white lady who grew up in Prairie Village probably and went to KU. Like, are you kidding me?
When young aspiring coaches or even football players, they see you guys, they see someone that looks like them, maybe grew up like them, that has to mean something.
Well, when you say you see you guys and look like them and grow up like them, it means that we're oddballs to begin with. And I think the minute you guys stop making a big deal about it, everybody else will as well.
God bless you, Todd Bowles. What a great answer to these ridiculous reporters. And I would love it if Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, if they get asked about this first two black quarterbacks in an AFC championship game, I would love it if they took a page out of his book.
Yep. But the left will eat itself and then say, well, you mentioned that you have white friends and black friends. What have you got against Ron Rivera?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's so good.
You are not inclusive.
I remember last year Mahomes was asked about it, and he's like, well, I'm not the first. I mean, it may look like it, but there was guys that came before me. So he kind of gave props to the older black quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he did. Okay, like the Warren Moons and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael Vicks even, who were older technically than Patrick Mahomes. It's weird for us to say.
Yep.
Yeah, that's McNabb. Okay. Well, listen, I know Mahomes will give a good answer. He's smart like that. But in fairness, I don't think Mahomes would be as direct as Todd Bowles would be. You guys agree, right?
No.
Mahomes would be much more of a politician. Mahomes would be much more Tim Scott, and then Todd Bowles was just Donald Trump. Bull in the China shop, just shoot it straight, no BS.
First word out of Pat's mouth is always, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's, is what he would say.
913-408-7957 is how you join us. 645. It's good to be here on KCMO. Bill Eigel's going to join us just after the top of the hour. There was a ton of drama in Jeff City yesterday. I mean, these people can't do anything on behalf of the Missouri citizens because they're too busy taking parking spots away from each other. I kid you not. So Bill Eigel on that and much more as we roll through the 6 o'clock hour on KCMO. Since we were just talking about Patrick Mahomes, I don't know if you saw this, but it's pretty cool. The College Baseball Hall of Fame is going to be moving its physical location to Overland Park. It's going to be located within the museum at Prairie Fire. And there were a lot of different cities that were in the mix for this, but it ends up coming to Overland Park. And Mahomes is one of the folks who ends up funding this entire operation. So very cool stuff. He was not there yesterday for this big announcement, but he had a big role in making this happen, and I think it's great. I mean, I'm not a diehard college baseball guy. There's not many that are, but the College World Series is one of those things that's on my bucket list.
That's a cool thing, like the NCAA tournament, like the Army-Navy game. It's a great thing during the year, the College World Series.
Have you been up there?
No, I haven't been there, but it's like I don't follow the baseball thing. But when that does come on, that draws my attention, and you all of a sudden you pick up on it real quick.
Yeah. Have you been, Mark, by chance?
I went when I was a kid. It was really fun. It's right next to the Omaha Zoo, so we did the baseball and the zoo all on the same day.
That's cool. That's a good weekend. That's a nice 1-2 punch. I got to consider doing that with the girls when they're older.
Yeah.
Make it a trip.
On your way up there. You stop in Iowa and head over.
Yeah. You do.
Field of Dreams.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a little triangle. I do Field of Dreams. I cut west across Iowa. Then I go to the World Series. And then we go to the zoo. The girls get the zoo at the end of the trip. That's
and, of course, you move away from tornadoes at a right angle.
Yeah.
So. Move away from it.
That's right. It's usually in June, right? The World Series, College World Series. Yes. I mean, that's a great little
cool.
long weekend.
Would be fun.
All right. I'm lining up my long weekends for 2032. Oh, man. So, but yeah, the College Baseball World Series is going to be at a Prairie Fire Museum.
Hall of Fame, yeah.
The Hall of Fame, excuse me, yes. It's going to be at the Prairie Fire Museum in Overland Park. So
Alex Gordon was there yesterday.
I saw that.
Yeah, Nebraska. What was it? What's Golden Spike is what it's called. I think he won that senior year top amateur player.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in the 2023 class of inductees.
That's great.
This year's class, I guess.
I see that here. Well, good for Alex Gordon, who still, I believe, lives in the area. So that's exciting stuff. Now, speaking of baseball, let's go to the major league level, where, of course, we're following the Royals and the Chiefs in this ballot measure. So this is so Jackson County. We now have the wording of the ballot measure to extend the sales tax in Jackson County, the 3/8 cent sales tax for 40 years. They can't make it easy in this county, can they? Nothing is simple. Nothing is as easy as it should be. Let me read to you from KCTV5 the wording of the ballot measure that would bring the Royals to a downtown ballpark and would also allow for upgrades to be made to Arrowhead Stadium. Here we go. You ready? I got to take a deep breath because it's just one long run-on sentence. Whew. All right, here we go. Shall the County of Jackson repeal its countywide capital improvement sales tax of 0.3% authorized by Section 67.700 of the revised statutes of Missouri and impose as a park sales tax of 0.3% authorized by Section 644.032 of the revised statutes of Missouri for a period of 40 years to provide funding for park improvements consisting of 1, site preparation and clearance, developing, construction, furnishing, improving, equipping, repairing, maintaining, and operating both Arrowhead Stadium and its surrounds, and a new baseball stadium and its surrounds to retain the Kansas City Chiefs in Jackson County, Missouri, and the Kansas City Royals in Kansas City, Jackson County, Missouri, pursuant to long-term leases. And 2, refinancing debt obligations previously incurred to finance or refinance improvements to the Harry S. Truman Sports Complex. You got all that? What a joke. I understand that you have to fit everything you can into this ballot language. But how about I write this thing for you, and I'll do it for a fraction of the cost of these overpaid attorneys that are doing it on behalf of Jackson County? Because how many people are going to vote no on this because they're pissed off at the wording of the question? I guarantee you.
They stopped at word 20.
Yeah. That's the ballot language right now for April. That just came yesterday from KCTV5. So the key part of this is that, first off, they would basically remove the current 3/8 cent sales tax and then start a new 3/8 cent sales tax for 40 years if this goes into place. So it's not extending it 40 years beyond the end of the lease in 2020 or 2031. It's basically removing the 3/8 cent sales tax and then putting in a new 3/8 cent sales tax. Now, why? What that's about? If that's about trying to get new debt, issuing new bonds, I don't know. We'll have to get somebody on who would know the answer to that. But regardless, when you have a question of this length, we've complained about the confusing ways that Jackson County and Kansas City write its ballot questions. This is right up there. And I guarantee you a percentage of people will vote no because they literally are confused and don't understand it. And when people don't understand the question, they typically either don't vote or they vote no. You thought last night was all about Donnie and Nikki and that was it? Oh, you're missing out, man. You are missing out. Good morning. Happy hump day. Be careful out there, even when it's not black ice on the roads. We've got the fog we're dealing with this morning. So saw this from our friends over at the Daily Wire. That's Ben Shapiro's outlet. You know, he's got Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, the whole crew. They interviewed yesterday a guy who's running for president or was running for president in New Hampshire on the ballot. I guess it's very easy to get on that New Hampshire ballot. And he was a character. He reminded me of some of the guys who have become viral sensations running for office in the past, like the rent is too damn high guy in New York when he ran for U.S. Senate and then governor. This guy's name is Vermin Supreme. Mark, you familiar with Vermin Supreme? You know him well?
I don't know him.
No, you don't. Okay. Well, that's what I'm here for, to introduce the audience and you to Vermin Supreme, who was interviewed yesterday outside of a Nikki Haley event. He was on the presidential ballot, and he's ready and was ready for the vote from New Hampshire.
All right, so who are you and where are we right now?
Hi, my name's Vermin Supreme, and I'm running for President of America, which is where we are right now. And we are standing outside of some generic hotel in some generic town in beautiful Salem, New Hampshire, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, Salem, New Hampshire. And, yeah. Okay, yeah. And, of course, we are here Nikki Haley event. Nikki Haley was speaking here earlier. And, of course, her staffers had the police escort me out yet again. Very sad. However, be that as it may, I am indeed on the Democratic primary ballot because here in New Hampshire, any wingnut can pay $1,000 and get on the ballot here. And I've been taking advantage of that process and taking advantage of the media that comes up here, such as this right here, right now, for close to 30 years. And yes, I do stand for free ponies for all Americans.
Okay, that's one campaign issue. What's your other two?
Well, once again, people do need to understand that it is a free pony, but yes, it is a federal pony identification system. You must have your pony with you at all times. I also stand for a zombie apocalypse awareness and, of course, harnessing the awesome powers, utilizing the latest in giant hips wheel technology. Time travel research, going back in time and killing baby Hitler, of course, and other tyrants to be named at whim. And mandatory toothbrushing laws now more than ever. Yes. How about the interstate roller coasters?
That's good.
What about the weather domes?
I'm really interested in the zombie apocalypse.
Okay, yes.
What's your go-to weapon?
Once again, of course, something that will capture them but not destroy their brains. People need to understand that the headshot will render the zombie useless for energy production. So we prefer capture tools, nets. Remember when Tom Ridge was telling everybody to get duct tape and plastic wrap? Yeah. Really, that was about capturing zombies.
But how do you stop the zombies from eating the ponies?
Well, that is a matter of zombie dentistry, which is on a related field, of course, and it involves pulling all the teeth out of the zombies. You know that. Yeah, once again, of course. Oh, yes, of course. Once again, there has never been a fatality at a licensed zombie energy facility. It's clean, it's safe, it's too cheap to meter. Zombie
reasonable.
Power. Absolutely.
Zombie power.
Why should people vote for you over Nikki Haley?
Well, that's obvious because I'm on the Democratic ticket.
Can you believe it? I know. That's the shocker of all shockers. Vermin Supreme, who was on the presidential ballot yesterday, is a Democrat.
Talk about a bombshell.
As he talks about free ponies. Even Biden's like, God, I never thought about the free pony thing. Maybe we got to get the free pony. Forget the free, bailing out kids' college. This is what is hampering my campaign. I got to start giving away free ponies. That's the answer. So as I'm watching this video last night of this guy, Vermin Supreme, He looked like someone who, if you're a regular listener, you will know, a caller to this show. He probably calls once a week, give or take. But I met him at a couple of our events. Carl in Independence. That's it. That's exactly who he looks like. He looks like Carl in Independence. And Carl always sticks out. He's been at a couple of our events, and he's given me a couple of books to read. And I'm sorry, Carl, I haven't read them yet. But he's always a very nice man. Comes out to these events, typically on the Missouri side. He calls the show, I don't know, once a week, every other week, something like that. And as I'm looking at Vermin Supreme talk about the zombie apocalypse coming to a town near you in New Hampshire, as he tries to get the vote, I'm like, this is Carl. That's exactly who this is. So if you're out there, Carl, if you're doubling down as Vermin Supreme in your spare time, the people of Missouri deserve to know. That's all I'm saying. That's all I got.
Carl wouldn't run as a Democrat, though.
Well, that's a good point. Well, if he really wanted to have an alter ego, he would.
That's true.
He could be one of those, old school pro-Second Amendment kind of blue dog Dems. It's not entirely impossible for him. So, just throwing it out there. But, there was actually, as Mark pointed out to me during the break, there were 25 people on the Republican side that ended up getting votes yesterday. Like, there are multiple people that got under 40 votes in New Hampshire. It wasn't just Trump and Nikki Haley. But, of course, Trump won by 11.5 points, got a double-digit win, and the primary is all but over. I just think about my half-hour conversation I just had with Mark Alford in the studio. Of course, Missouri's 4th Congressional District. You saw him for, decades on TV in this town. And then I think about what we saw last night in Virginia, where the president kicked off his re-election campaign. And I got this, and I can't even understand what the guy's saying. I've been trying to figure it out all morning long. If you can help us out, 913-408-7957 for some type of interpretation. Just help a brother out here, because I don't know what the heck's going on.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Gosh. I don't know what it is. Mark, what's your best guess, man?
Don't mess with the men and women of America or else you'll get the benefits.
The benefits of what?
I don't know.
The men and women of America?
We all want to know.
What are the benefits? The benefits for who? Of what? Where? I mean, are we talking Social Security benefits? What kind of benefits are we talking about here? AFC Championship game tickets? I mean, give me something here. What are the benefits, Joe?
Yeah, he says he's going to teach him a lesson and then give him benefits. What is it?
Well,
teach him a lesson or give him benefits?
I got a signed Hunter Biden painting for my living room? I mean, give me, what does it mean? Something here, brother. Oh, man. What a world, I'll tell you. 913-408-7957. I'm trying to get somebody to interpret that for me. And I've yet to find it on the text line. Someone who can just, I'll give it to you one more time. Some of you want to hear it again.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
I mean, at this point, it's kind of just like the Alex Jones scream. Mixed with some word salad in between. It just, it doesn't make any sense. It just completely clueless. But that's where we're at right now. So we'll just keep following along. And if you got the interpretation, you know how to get a hold of us here on KCML, because someone's got to have the answer. I mean, we could turn this into a whole cheesy morning radio like they do on the music stations. Name that noise. But we don't want to do that. So I just need some help here. That's all. Meantime, locally, I mentioned yesterday that this story has gotten more national attention than it's gotten local attention. But now it's starting to pick up more local attention, believe it or not, which is so backwards from how it normally is, right? Normally, a story gets a ton of local attention, and then for some reason, it gets picked up by national media, oftentimes because it fits some national media narrative. But this story has gotten national attention before it's gotten really a ton of local attention. But now it's starting to go back the other way. KCTV5 had it up as the lead story this morning, and that is that questions remain as authorities continue investigation into the death of 3 Northland men. The attorney of the man who lived at the home where 3 dead bodies were found is sharing their side of the story. So Jordan Willis is the man who was renting out the house where his 3 friends died a couple of weeks ago from basically freezing to death. They were watching the Chiefs game on Sunday. It was the Chiefs-Chargers game, the last game of the regular season. And finally, one of the guys who passed, his fiance, did a welfare check on him, and they found these 3 guys outside the house. The 3 friends were Ricky Johnson, Clayton McGinney, and David Harrington. So these 3 guys were high school friends with the home renter, Jordan Willis. And there was another man there that night whom police have not yet identified. But the families are obviously looking for answers. And there's an enormous amount of questions here. But we do know, according to KCPD, there's no foul play. They've ruled that out. So without doing too much speculation on this, what's the obvious conclusion to come to? These guys are doing things they're not supposed to be doing, potentially ingesting things they're not supposed to be ingesting, and things go sideways. I mean, it's a story that we've tragically seen far too often in this country. I mean, we know that there is a crisis, an epidemic of drug overdoses. And it's not even just overdoses now, it's really poisonings. Because you have these things and these drugs laced with fentanyl and other items that people don't realize they're taking. I mean, that's the tragic story of the 16-year-old kid, Cooper Davis, whose mother, Libby, is now, doing incredible work around the region, trying to inform young people of the pitfalls of taking things when you don't know what they are. These kids think they're taking Percocets. It's laced with fentanyl, and, they're taking a deadly amount. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened here by any stretch. We'll let the investigation play out. But it's the only logical conclusion that one would come to if the police have ruled out fair play. I understand the families want answers, and they want to understand how their loved ones are literally sitting in the backyard for potentially up to 2 days, just dead in snow like that. Don't get me wrong. I would want the answers as well. But of all the stories that have become national stories in this town, I'm surprised this is it, because until we know more, it seems fairly obvious what this story appears to be. So we'll let KCPD continue to do its investigation, but it's weird how now the national media narrative is driving this to become a bigger local story. When I think locally, we're kind of like, all right, we got a lot going on here. We've got this infighting now in Jeff City. We've got the Royals and the Chiefs ballot issue, which has probably been the top story of the past week in this town. We got the Chiefs gearing up for the AFC Championship. There's a lot going on, and this is a story that had some local attention, but the national media made it a bigger story here locally, John.
Well, for death stories, I guess we've come off a record year for homicides, right?
Yeah.
Now, this one has an element of mystery. These homicides, unfortunately, not big mysteries a lot of times for the law enforcement.
Good point.
They kind of understand maybe who was likely to have been involved in some of the homicides last year.
True.
This one, don't have anything like that, do we?
But
it's a mystery.
It is a mystery, but once again, I'll wait for the story to play out.
Yeah,
but
I don't know why that makes it national to your point. That's your point here. Why is this? What's national fascination with this story? When here it's kind of like, we're going through the process.
There's mystery to it, but is it really that mysterious, I guess is my point? Until we know it's not what we all think it is, to me it's not a mystery.
Yeah, okay. That's one way to look at it.
And I know we don't have the toxicology report yet, but if the toxicology report comes back the way we think it's going to come back, then this is sadly a story that can happen in any big or small town in America and probably will happen to some degree today because this is happening at a record number around the country. So I'm just confused. But I'm telling you, when I got buddies that work at NBC News saying, hey, you been following this? I'm like, yeah, kind of, but not really. Like, oh, man, we're all over this one. I'm like, how about you guys do some real journalisming? Why are you fascinated by this? I can't quite figure it out. Something else I can't quite figure out. We've got our third daughter coming in March. And I probably could have done this on a Tirade Tuesday, but I leave Tirade Tuesday for you guys. And no, I'm not tirading against having a third kid. Trust me, this was all well planned. Not like, Mark, was your third child planned? Just be honest.
No.
Okay, all right. So unlike Mark, I have a little more planning in my life. Mark just, lets it rip. Woo! That goes,
boom, boom, boom.
Whatever happens, happens. That's how it plays out for Mark. He's a little loosey-goosey in there. But anyway, I was blown away when my wife asked me this question yesterday about something we're going to need for our third child. And I just think it sounds to me like the biggest scam, but maybe someone who is in this line of work can help me out here. I'll tell you what that is as we roll through the 8 o'clock hour on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7.